What if your thoughts weren't just private? They were powerful enough to shape the cosmos. This audiobook uncovers the stunning truth. Consciousness isn't a side effect of reality. It creates it. Dive in and discover the science that rewrites everything you thought you knew. Introduction. What if everything you've ever been told about reality was only half the story? Right now, as you listen, your brain is firing with electric pulses, decoding sound waves, constructing meaning, and creating a conscious experience. But what if, and this isn't science fiction, your very act of awareness is shaping the world around you? Not metaphorically, literally. This book will challenge everything you thought you knew about the mind, the universe, and your place in it. Welcome to the hidden truth. Consciousness and the quantum reality, where cutting-edge science collides with age-old questions in a way that will leave you stunned, awakened, and utterly transformed. We live in a world defined by material facts, atoms, particles, forces, biology. But behind the scenes, there's something strange happening. Physicists are uncovering a reality that defies logic. Particles changing when observed, matter acting like energy, and information shaping outcomes in ways that cannot be explained by classical laws. These aren't anomalies, they are clues. And the most shocking clue of all, consciousness might not be a byproduct of the universe. It might be the source code itself. This isn't just intellectual entertainment. What we're about to explore has radical implications. If consciousness is entangled with the quantum fabric of reality, then your thoughts, your awareness, even your very being, are far more powerful and mysterious than you've ever imagined. We're talking about the future of science, the foundation of spirituality, the illusion of free will, and the hidden architecture of everything. In the chapters ahead, we'll traverse the wild frontier where neuroscience meets quantum mechanics, where ancient mystics whisper truths that physicists are only now beginning to measure. You'll encounter brain-bending paradoxes, real experiments that defy logic, and mind-expanding ideas that could reset your perception of life, death, time, and reality itself. So why should you keep listening? Because once you glimpse the hidden truth, you can't go back, and you won't want to. This isn't just a book. It's a portal, a gateway, a trigger for the deepest curiosity you've ever felt. Every chapter is a step deeper into the rabbit hole, and by the time you reach the final page, you'll never see the world or yourself the same way again. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Awakening the Inquiry, the age-old mystery of consciousness. It begins not with equations or laboratories, but with a question so old it predates language itself, an ancient whisper that has followed us through every age of human history. What is it that knows? What is it that gazes out from behind your eyes, that listens through your ears, that feels the warmth of sunlight on skin, and calls it beautiful? Consciousness. This intimate, continuous presence that lives at the center of our experience has been with us all along, yet we understand it less than anything else. It is the most obvious and the most mysterious thing we know. And yet, for all our scientific advances and philosophical traditions, no one has ever found a switch in the brain labeled consciousness. We have mapped synapses and observed neural firings, measured brain waves, and cataloged behaviors. But the raw immediacy of being, the undeniable nowness of awareness, remains unexplained, untouched by scalpels and sensors across the sweep of every civilization has stared into this mystery and offered interpretations. The ancient Egyptians believed consciousness was a form of divine essence, breathed into humans by the gods. The Greeks saw the soul psyche as the animating principle of life, while in the East, Indian sages spoke of Atman, the eternal witness, a sliver of universal consciousness residing in each individual. In Buddhist thought, consciousness is both a function of perception and a fundamental feature of existence, flowing moment to moment, giving rise to the illusion of self. Throughout history, artists and mystics have touched its edges in poetry and silence, while philosophers have wrestled to define its nature and its source. But even today, with all the sophistication of modern neuroscience, we find ourselves no closer to answering the essential question, what is consciousness? It's important to understand just how peculiar this question really is. Most things we study are outside of ourselves. We study stars, stones, and cells, objects that we can measure, manipulate, and place under a microscope. But consciousness is not an what is. Consciousness, object. It is the very subject of experience, the medium through which all those objects are known. You don't see consciousness, you see through it. It is like trying to bite your own teeth, or to look at your own eyes without a mirror. As such, the challenge is not only scientific, but philosophical and existential. And herein lies the great paradox. Everything we know about the universe, we know through consciousness, yet we do not know what consciousness is. The philosopher David Chmer called this the hard problem of consciousness. Why should physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience at all? Why doesn't a computer chip feel sadness? Why is there something it's like to be you? These questions are not just abstractions, they strike at the very root of identity and existence. You may not think about consciousness every day, but it is the silent foundation of everything you've ever loved, feared, or hoped for. Every choice, every sensation, every belief you hold dear unfolds within the light of awareness. And if we cannot understand the source of that light, how can we claim to understand ourselves? What quantum physics brings to the table? Just as philosophers began to accept the boundaries of their understanding, science offered a surprising twist in the tale, one that came not from the humanities but from the smallest domains of physical reality. In the early 20th century, quantum physics emerged not as a continuation of classical physics, but as a radical departure. At the subatomic level, the world behaved in ways that defied logic, expectation, and even common sense. Particles could exist in multiple places at once. They didn't have a definite position or speed until measured, and most puzzling of all, they could become entangled, influencing each other instantaneously across vast distances, as if space and time themselves were just flexible rules in a deeper game. But the most controversial and intriguing aspect of quantum theory was this: the act of measurement appeared to collapse a quantum system's probabilistic wave function into a single observable outcome. In simple terms, the observer seemed to play a crucial role in determining what was real. This was most famously illustrated by the double-slit experiment, when electrons are fired through two slits and not observed. They behave like waves, interfering with themselves and creating a complex pattern. But when the same electrons are observed, when someone simply watches, the pattern collapses, and they behave like discrete particles. Observation changes outcome, awareness alters reality. This baffling phenomenon led physicists like Niels Bohr to argue that quantum reality is fundamentally probabilistic, and that the observer is inseparable from what is observed, but what exactly qualifies as an observer? Is it a machine, a camera, a human mind? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the Phenomenon Wiener interpretation, go further, suggesting that it is consciousness itself that collapses the wave function. In other words, reality doesn't exist in a definite state until it is consciously perceived. That idea, radical, poetic, and deeply unsettling, blurred the line between physics and philosophy, between mind and matter. Most physicists were uncomfortable with these implications and tried to avoid the metaphysical entanglements. They developed alternative interpretations. Many worlds theory proposed that all possibilities exist in branching parallel universes. Decoherence offered explanations in terms of environmental interaction, but none of these fully eliminated the strange, almost magical role of observation. As renowned physicist John Wheeler put it, we may live in a participatory universe, one in which reality is not merely out there, but is co-created through interaction with consciousness. This idea, while still debated, opened a door that has never quite been closed, the door between quantum mechanics and the mystery of the mind. It's crucial not to overstate the case. Quantum theory does not prove that consciousness creates reality, but it does challenge our assumptions about an independent, objective universe. It invites us to rethink the nature of matter, measurement, and mind, and it shows that at the deepest levels of reality, the boundaries between observer and observed, between subject and object, are far more porous than we ever imagined. This opens not only a scientific puzzle, but a deeply personal one. If the universe depends on observation, and observation requires awareness, then what role does your consciousness play in the unfolding of the cosmos? Why this connection matters. Now you might be wondering, why? Now, why is this discussion about consciousness and quantum physics relevant in our current moment? After all, our world seems increasingly consumed by tangible issues: economic, climate change, political polarization, technological acceleration. And yet beneath all of this, there is a quiet crisis of meaning. Despite all our progress, many people feel more disconnected than ever, disconnected from each other, from the natural world, and even from themselves. Anxiety, depression, and existential unease are no longer rare. They're widespread. And perhaps that's no coincidence. In many ways, modern society has reduced us to consumers. And data points our technologies grow smarter, but our wisdom seems to lag behind. We've explored the outer cosmos, mapped genomes, and sent rovers to Mars. But we've neglected the inner landscape, the domain of consciousness. We treat awareness as an incidental feature, a side effect of computation, rather than the very ground of our humanity. This imbalance has consequences. When we ignore consciousness, we ignore empathy, ethics, and the sacredness of life. We begin to treat ourselves and others as machines, as problems to be solved, rather than mysteries to be honored. But what if consciousness is not incidental? What if it is not merely a product of the brain, but a fundamental aspect of the universe itself? This question doesn't just belong in ivory towers or science fiction. It belongs at our dinner tables, in our classrooms, in our meditations, in our politics. Because if consciousness is the foundation of reality, then how we relate to our own awareness and to the awareness of others becomes the most important question of all. It challenges us to redefine intelligence, to rethink spirituality, to reimagine science itself. It suggests that ethics, creativity, and interconnectedness are not side effects of evolution, but expressions of a deeper order. More than that, it offers a way out of our crisis of meaning. When we recognize that consciousness is not just a glitch in a machine, but the very essence of being, we begin to see the world differently. We listen more deeply. We act more compassionately. We become less obsessed with control and more open to wonder, and perhaps most importantly, we begin to see ourselves not as isolated fragments in a lifeless universe, but as conscious participants in a vast living mystery. The inquiry we begin in this audiobook is not about answers. It is about awakening. It is about rekindling the fire of wonder that first led us to ask, who am I and what is real? It is about dissolving the false wall between science and spirit, between knowledge and wisdom. In the coming chapters, we will walk through the forest of quantum reality and the ocean of human experience. We will explore wave functions in neural networks, ancient texts, and modern theories, and at each step we will return to the same luminous center, mystery of consciousness. So let us proceed, not as mere students of theory, but as seekers of truth, truth that is not found in data alone, but in the very heart of awareness. Because in the end, the most profound discoveries may not lie out there in the stars or atoms, but right here in the simple, unshakable presence of being. And that, dear listener, is the hidden truth. We are about to uncover together Chapter 2. The lens of perception. Perception shapes reality. Imagine waking up in a completely dark room. At first, there's nothing, no shape, no depth, only blackness. Then gradually a faint outline forms. You realize the room has dimensions. A moment later, a beam of light leaks under the door, illuminating the edges of a table. Suddenly, you're not in a void. You're in a space with form structure, meaning what changed, not the room itself. The physical reality was always there. What changed was your perception. The mind's ability to receive and process information turned chaos into context. This simple metaphor lies at the core of a profound realization. Reality, as we know, it is inseparable from how we perceive it. Every moment of your waking life is mediated through perception. Light enters your eyes, sound vibrates within your ears, pressure dances across your skin, and chemical molecules signal taste and smell. But none of these inputs are the world itself. They are only fragments. What you experience is the brain's model assembled from sensory data and past memories, painted at top, an inner canvas called awareness. The world you see is not just out there. It is constructed in here, in this sense. Perception is not passive, it is profoundly creative. And therein lies a silent revolution. If what we perceive as reality is shaped by our consciousness, then the boundaries between what is and what appears are far more fluid than we were taught to believe. In everyday life, we take perception for granted. We look at a red apple and believe that redness exists inherently in the object. But color is not a property of the apple. It is a product of how light of certain wavelengths is interpreted by our visual system. The same is true for sound, for touch, for flavor. Even our sense of time, the ticking march of seconds and minutes, can stretch or compress, depending on emotional state. A minute in joy flies like a breeze. A minute in fear can feel eternal. Reality is elastic. Under the influence of consciousness and perception is the bridge between them. It is not merely a function. It is the sculptor of experience. Science has begun to catch up with this ancient insight. Cognitive neuroscience reveals that the brain doesn't passively receive sensory information. It actively predicts what it expects to find. In the words of philosopher Andy Clark, the brain is a prediction machine. constantly constructing hypotheses about the world and updating them with incoming data. This means your experience of reality is the quantum revolution in science, less like a mirror and more like a dream, an internally generated model that adapts to input. What you see, hear, and feel is filtered through layers of expectation, memory, and attention, far from being a flaw. This predictive mechanism is what allows us to survive, learn, and find meaning. But it also reminds us what we take to be objective truth is often a consensus of perception, consciousness as the canvas. If perception is the painter, then what is the canvas? What is the silent backdrop against which all thoughts, sensations, and perceptions arise? That canvas is consciousness itself, not as something we have, but as something we are. While perception colors experience with texture and narrative, consciousness holds it all together. It is the light in which the painting appears, the space in which phenomena unfold. And yet, in our quest for understanding, we often overlook this fundamental presence because it is so close, so constant, so taken for granted, like a fish unaware of water. We live immersed in consciousness, but rarely turn to see it clearly, to appreciate consciousness. As the canvas of experience, we must look beyond the contents of mind, beyond thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, and instead notice the silent awareness that perceives them all. This awareness does not judge, control, or change what appears. It simply knows whether joy or sorrow, clarity or confusion. Consciousness is unchanged, like a screen upon which every film is projected, and this awareness is not confined by identity. It exists before the story of me takes shape. As children, we felt it as open curiosity. As adults, we often cover it with roles and responsibilities. But when we pause and look inward, we find that same luminous presence, watching, witnessing, being. This insight is not new. Spiritual traditions have long spoken of a deeper self beneath the fluctuations of thought. In Vedanta, it is called Atman, the unchanging self. In Buddhism, it is known as Rigpa, pure awareness, untouched by mental noise. Indigenous cultures speak of the great spirit that flows through all life across traditions and languages. The same recognition emerges that consciousness is not confined to a brain or body, but is a field in which all experience arises. And when we touch this awareness, however briefly, we find a peace not dependent on external conditions. We glimpse the timeless in the heart of time. Science, too, has begun to explore this canvas. Though with caution, studies in contemplative neuroscience show that practices like meditation, mindfulness, and introspection can reveal and even alter the nature of consciousness. Brain scans show changes in connectivity, activation patterns, and even structural plasticity among long-term meditators. But perhaps more importantly, these practices reveal that awareness can observe itself. One can become aware of being aware, and in that recursive turn, a kind of inner quantum leap, we begin to sense that consciousness is not merely an effect of physical processes, but may be a fundamental property of the universe itself. Just as space holds stars, consciousness holds experience. It is not a passenger in the body. It is the very stage on which the body and world appear. This realization is not only profound, it is transformative. When we remember the canvas, we are no longer lost in the painting. We are not the fleeting clouds of thought, but the sky that holds them. We are not the roles we play, but the presence that plays them. In this awareness, life becomes richer, more textured, more real, and perhaps most importantly, we begin to recognize that the consciousness within us is not separate from the consciousness in others. It is not my awareness versus yours. It is one field appearing through different lenses. This shift in perspective dissolves barriers, softens judgments, and awakens a deep sense of empathy and connection. The observer in the quantum mirror, at the edge of science and mystery, lies the quantum realm, where the role of the observer is not merely passive, but profoundly active in the classical world. Objects exist independently of observation. A tree falls, whether or not someone hears it, but in the quantum world, observation appears to create the reality it observes. The famous double-slit experiment illustrates this strangeness. When electrons pass through two slits without observation, they form an interference pattern behaving like waves. But when observed, they act like particles choosing a single path. Somehow the act of observation collapses the probability into actuality. The observer makes a difference. But who or what is the observer? This question opens a philosophical chasm. Some interpretations argue that any measuring device qualifies anything that records data, but others, like the Feynman-Wigner interpretation, suggest that only conscious awareness can truly collapse. The wave function in this view. It is not the machine, but the mind behind the machine, the knowing presence that finalizes reality. If this is true, then consciousness is not a late byproduct of matter, but a co-creator of the universe. It is not riding in the back seat of evolution. It's sitting at the wheel. This idea may sound radical, even mystical, but it's not without precedent. Physicist John Wheeler proposed that we live in a participatory universe, in which observers bring the cosmos into being through their interactions. Eugene Wigner, a Nobel laureate, wrote openly about the necessity of consciousness in physics, and recent thought experiments, like the quantum delayed choice tests, further erode the line between past and present, suggesting that choices made in the now can affect the history of a quantum event. If this sounds like science fiction, that's because we are standing on the edge of understanding, looking into a mystery that defies linear thinking. What does this mean for us? If the observer plays a role in the unfolding of reality, then each moment of conscious attention becomes a sacred act. The way we look at the world shapes what the world becomes. This is not metaphor. It is physics, philosophy, and spirituality converging. When you bring awareness to a flower, a thought, or a breath, you are not just noticing. You are participating in the birth of a universe. Consciousness is not outside reality, watching from afar. It is woven into its fabric, threading meaning into matter. And so we arrive at a revelation, both humbling and exhilarating. You are not a passive observer in a meaningless universe. You are a conscious node in a living cosmos, a co-author in the story of being. The same awareness that observes quantum collapse also watches your emotions rise and fall, your thoughts come and go. The same mystery that animates electrons dances behind your eyes. This is not spiritual poetry. It is the echo of what science, when honest and open, begins to whisper, that consciousness and cosmos are not separate. They are reflections in a quantum mirror. We stand at the threshold of a radical shift, not in technology but in identity, to see consciousness not as a side effect, but as the foundation of perception, experience, and even reality itself. Changes everything. It transforms how we relate to ourselves, to each other, and to the world. It reframes life, not as a random accident, but as a conscious unfolding in the chapters ahead. We will deepen this exploration, examining the mind-body problem, the neuroscience of awareness, and the entangled dance between self and universe. But for now, let us rest in this recognition that perception is not just how we see the world. It is how the world sees itself through us, and in that sacred, seeing the hidden truth begins to shimmer. Chapter 3. The Mind-Body Connection, the mysteries of the mind and body interface. There are moments in life when we stand at the edge of something vast, like staring into the abyss of the ocean, where we know that just beyond our perception there is an entire world yet to be discovered. This is how we should approach the relationship between mind and body, a profound mystery that has both eluded and captivated us for centuries. In many ways, we have treated the mind and body as separate entities, as if the mind is a passenger simply observing the body's journey through life. Yet in reality, the mind and body are intricately woven together in a dynamic and interdependent dance. This dance has fascinated both scientists and philosophers alike, and recent advancements in neuroscience and quantum physics have begun to offer glimpses into the underlying connections between these two fundamental aspects of human existence for centuries. The mind-body duality has been a philosophical conundrum. Descartes famously stated, "I think, therefore, I am placing emphasis on the mind as the sole foundation of existence, while relegating the body to mere mechanical status." This view persisted for a long time, despite its limitations. However, as we ventured further into the depths of scientific understanding, particularly in the fields of neuroscience and quantum mechanics, we began to realize that the relationship between mind and body is far more intricate than mere separateness. The body, it turns out, is not just a physical machine. It is a vessel for consciousness intimately connected to the mind in ways that we are only beginning to understand. The mind and body communicate with each other continuously, even when we are not aware of it. For example, when we experience fear, the body responds by releasing hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, preparing us for fight or flight. This response is not merely an external reaction. It is deeply intertwined with our thoughts and emotions. In turn, the mind is constantly influenced by the physical state of the body. A lack of sleep can lead to mental fog, while exercise can improve mood and cognitive function. The brain and body are not separate entities, but rather they are two parts of a whole that coalesce into the full experience of being human. One of the most compelling aspects of this mind-body connection is how the brain uses the body as a map. For example, in the study of somatic memory, it has been discovered that emotions and experiences can become trapped in the body, particularly in areas of tension or pain. This concept, while once considered fringe, has now gained mainstream acceptance. The body, it seems, is not simply a vessel for the mind, but an active participant in the creation and maintenance of consciousness. The mind is not simply a thinker, it is a thinker deeply embedded in a body that shapes its perceptions and experiences. The mind-body connection is not one of separation, but of fluid interdependence. The body is as much a part of our consciousness as the mind itself. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to evolve. One of the most revolutionary discoveries in modern neuroscience is the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. For decades, it was believed that the brain was largely static after a certain age, with little potential for change. However, groundbreaking research has revealed that the brain is remarkably adaptable, capable of rewiring itself throughout our lives in response to new experiences, learning, and even injury. This finding has profound implications for our understanding of the mind-body connection. Neuroplasticity suggests that the mind is not a fixed entity, but rather an evolving process, continually shaped by the observer effect. Explained both our mental and physical states. At its core, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt to its environment, forming new pathways and connections in response to stimuli. This means that the brain is not only shaped by our thoughts, but also by our actions and the environment in which we live. When we engage in activities such as learning a new skill, meditating, or practicing mindfulness, we are physically changing the structure of our brain. In the same way, physical exercise has been shown to enhance neuroplasticity by stimulating the release of neurotrophic factors that promote the growth of new neurons and synapses. This creates a feedback loop where the body influences the mind and vice versa, leading to continuous growth and adaptation. Neuroplasticity has also revealed the extraordinary potential for recovery after injury. For example, when a part of the brain is damaged due to stroke or trauma, other areas of the brain can sometimes take over the functions of the damaged region, allowing for remarkable recoveries. This ability of the brain to rewire itself challenges the old notion of a fixed, immutable mind, instead presenting a more fluid and dynamic view of consciousness. The mind is not confined to the brain's physical structure. It is an emergent property that can evolve, adapt, and heal the mind-body. Connection is not a one-way street. Just as the brain influences the body can also influence the brain in ways that lead to healing and transformation. As we understand more about neuroplasticity, we begin to see how much of our perception of reality is influenced by our habitual thoughts and behaviors. Our minds are not just passive observers of the world, they are active participants in shaping our experience. The more we practice positive mental habits, such as gratitude, compassion, and mindfulness, the more we reinforce neural pathways that support these states. In turn, these positive neural changes can improve our physical health, reduce stress, and even enhance our immune system. The mind and body are in a constant dialogue, each one shaping the other in profound and subtle ways. The more we cultivate a healthy relationship between the two, the more we unlock our full potential for growth and healing. The quantum influence. Bridging the mind-body gap, the relationship between mind and body becomes even more fascinating. When we introduce the concept of quantum mechanics, the realm of physics that governs the behavior of particles at the smallest scales. Quantum physics has long challenged our classical understanding of reality, suggesting that the universe at its most fundamental level is a strange and mysterious place where particles can exist in multiple states at once, where observation influences reality, and where time and space are not as rigid as we once thought. But how does this relate to the mind-body connection? The answer may lie in the idea that consciousness itself may play a fundamental role in shaping the quantum fabric of reality. One of the most intriguing concepts in quantum mechanics is the idea of entanglement. When two particles become entangled, they are no longer independent of one another, even if they are separated by vast distances. A change in the state of one particle instantaneously affects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon seems to defy classical notions of space and time. suggesting that the universe is more interconnected than we previously understood. Could the mind in some way operate within this quantum field, influencing the body through a process that transcends classical cause and effect? Recent research has begun to explore the possibility that the brain itself operates at a quantum level. While this idea is still speculative, it has opened up fascinating discussions about the potential for consciousness to influence reality in ways that go beyond the material world. If the brain's processes are influenced by quantum mechanics, it may provide an explanation for phenomena such as intuition, precognition, and other seemingly inexplicable experiences. It could also explain the remarkable mind-body connection, suggesting that our consciousness is not simply a byproduct of neural activity, but is intimately connected to the very fabric of the universe itself, just as entangled particles affect each other across vast distances. Perhaps our consciousness is entangled with the world around us, influencing and being influenced by it. In ways we cannot yet fully comprehend, this quantum view of the mind-body connection offers a radically different perspective on the nature of reality. It suggests that consciousness is not confined to the brain or the body, but is a universal field that permeates all of existence. The boundaries between mind and body, self and other, are not as fixed as they seem. Instead, we are part of a larger interconnected web of consciousness that transcends time and space. The implications of this view are profound. It means that the mind is not separate from the body. It is part of a much larger quantum process that extends beyond the physical realm. In this light, the mind-body connection is not just a matter of neurons and synapses, but a dynamic interplay between consciousness and the universe itself. The relationship between mind and body is not one of separation, but of deep interconnectedness through the lens of neuroplasticity. We see that the brain is constantly adapting and evolving, influenced by both our thoughts and our physical actions. Quantum mechanics adds another layer of mystery, suggesting that consciousness may play a fundamental role in shaping reality itself. The mind and body are not distinct entities, but are woven together in a fabric of consciousness that transcends the physical world. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the mind-body connection, we move closer to understanding the true nature of consciousness itself and its role in shaping the universe. Chapter 4. The nature of reality perception and the quantum world. The illusion of the physical world. Reality, as we perceive it, is a fascinating construct, a rich tapestry woven from the sensory data we receive and the interpretations our minds make from that information. What we think of as the physical world is in fact an intricate interplay between our sensory inputs and the mind's processing. We assume that we are living in a world that is tangible, fixed, and predictable, governed by the rigid laws of physics. Yet what if this reality is an illusion, a construct of our minds designed to help us navigate the vast, chaotic complexity of existence? This is a question that has haunted philosophers, mystics, and scientists alike for centuries. From a young age, we are taught that the world is composed of solid objects, and the laws of physics govern everything we experience. We learn to trust the consistency of the physical world, the feeling of a chair beneath us, the taste of food, the sound of music. These sensations seem to present an undeniable reality, but quantum physics challenges this understanding. At the quantum level, the very foundation of matter appears to be made up of particles that are not fixed in space or time. These particles exist in a state of probability, only collapsing into a definite state. When observed, this strange and counterintuitive behavior suggests that the world we experience with our senses may be nothing more than a perceptual illusion, a mirage crafted by our minds to make sense of a far more fluid and dynamic reality. This idea has profound implications. If the physical world is not as solid as it seems, what does this say about our perceptions of ourselves and our place in the universe? The mind plays a crucial role in shaping our experience of reality. We see and feel only what our brains interpret from the raw data our senses provide. In a sense, our reality is a construct, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the otherwise incomprehensible. The mind creates the illusion of separation between self and world, but in the quantum realm, this boundary may not even exist. Could it be that reality is not something we observe, but something we co-create with the universe itself? As we begin to understand the quantum nature of reality, we realize that we are not merely passive observers of the world. We are active participants in shaping it. The observer effect in quantum mechanics reveals that the act of observation influences the outcome of an experiment. This suggests that consciousness itself plays a fundamental role in creating the reality we experience. What we see, hear, and touch may not be fixed properties of the world, but are influenced by our minds. In this sense, reality is not something out there, but is deeply interconnected with our consciousness. This idea not only shifts our understanding of the universe, but also our understanding of the self. The role of perception in shaping reality. Perception is a powerful force in shaping our reality. It acts as a lens through which we interpret the world, filtering the vast and overwhelming amount of sensory information that bombards us every moment. However, perception is not a passive process. It is an active construction shaped by our beliefs, experiences, and expectations. In fact, what we perceive is not necessarily an accurate representation of the world as it is, but a subjective interpretation that our brains create based on the sensory data it receives. This is where things get interesting. Perception is not just about seeing or hearing. It's about interpreting what we sense. The brain does not passively absorb information from the world. Instead, it actively filters and organizes that information based on pre-existing cognitive frameworks. These frameworks, shaped by our culture, upbringing, and individual experiences, help us make sense of the world, but they also color our perceptions. For instance, two people can witness the same event, but interpret it in entirely different ways. What one person sees as a tragedy, another might see as a blessing. This subjective nature of perception demonstrates how much of reality is shaped by the mind. The idea that perception plays a role in shaping reality goes beyond the mental and into the physical. Consider the placebo effect, where patients experience real physical improvements after receiving a treatment that has no active ingredients, simply because they believe it will work. This phenomenon suggests that the mind has the power to influence the body's physical state. Through perception alone, it raises the intriguing possibility that the mind, through its perceptions and beliefs, has the ability to influence not just our psychological experience of the world, but also the very physical reality we inhabit. In quantum mechanics, this concept is mirrored by the observer effect. The reality we experience may not be a fixed objective entity, but is instead shaped by our consciousness. What if by altering our perception, we could influence the quantum world around us? What if the key to unlocking hidden potential lies in our ability to perceive differently, to expand our awareness, and to embrace the fluidity of reality? The notion that perception shapes reality is not just a philosophical musing, but a question that is deeply embedded in the fabric of quantum physics. If consciousness has the power to influence the physical world, then perhaps by changing the way we perceive ourselves and the universe, we can change the world itself. The quantum field and the holographic universe. At the heart of the quantum view of reality is the concept of the quantum field, a vast unseen field of energy that permeates all of existence. Everything in the universe, from the smallest particles to the largest galaxies, is interconnected through this field. It is not simply a void, but a dynamic living matrix that exists beyond the limits of space and time. This quantum field is the true fabric of reality, from which all matter arises. The particles that make up our physical world, including ourselves, are merely excitations in this field, temporary disturbances in an otherwise infinite undivided whole. The idea of the quantum field ties into the concept of the holographic universe, a theory that suggests that the universe is not three-dimensional, but rather two-dimensional, with all the information needed to describe reality encoded on a distant boundary. This idea arises from the study of black holes, where the information about everything that falls into a black hole seems to be encoded on its event horizon, the boundary beyond which nothing can escape. In a similar way, it is hypothesized that the entire universe may be a hologram, a projection parallel universes, and multi-dimensional reality of information encoded on the boundary of the cosmos. This perspective radically alters our understanding of space-time and reality itself, suggesting that what we perceive as real is merely a projection of deeper underlying information in this holographic model of the universe. The boundaries between mind and matter, self and other, become increasingly blurred. If everything is interconnected through the quantum field, then the boundaries between the observer and the observed dissolve. The mind and body are not separate entities, but are both part of this greater whole, interacting with the quantum field in ways we are only beginning to understand. Consciousness itself may be a product of the quantum field, emerging from the intricate dance of energy and information that underpins all of existence. The holographic universe model also ties into the idea of non-locality, which suggests that information can be transmitted instantaneously regardless of distance. In the quantum realm, particles can be entangled, meaning that their states are linked in such a way that changing one particle state will instantaneously affect the other, no matter how far apart they are. This challenges our classical understanding of space and time, where information can only travel at the speed of light. The quantum field, as a vast interconnected web, seems to suggest that all of reality is deeply entangled, and the apparent separation between objects, people, and events is merely an illusion created by our perception. As we explore these quantum ideas, we are confronted with the possibility that reality is far more interconnected and fluid than we have ever imagined. If the universe is truly holographic, and all of reality is encoded in the quantum field, then we are not isolated beings, navigating a separate physical world. Instead, we are deeply woven into the fabric of existence itself, co-creators of the reality we experience the boundaries between mind and body observer and observed self and universe may be illusory. Everything is interconnected, and our consciousness is an integral part of the great cosmic dance of existence. The nature of reality is not as solid and fixed as it appears. Quantum mechanics and the theory of the holographic universe challenge our classical notions of space-time and matter. Reality is not merely something that exists out there. It is a fluid and dynamic process that is deeply influenced by consciousness and perception. The boundaries between mind and matter are not as rigid as they seem, and the world we experience may be a construct of the mind. As we begin to explore these ideas, we open the door to a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it. By shifting our perception, we may unlock the hidden truths that lie at the heart of the quantum reality. Chapter 5. The Observer and the Observer Effect, the Power of Consciousness, the Illusion of Objectivity. In the quantum world, we live in a world where objectivity is the cornerstone of science, reason, and everyday life. We trust that things exist independently of our perception. Objects have fixed properties, events unfold according to objective laws, and the world continues to exist, whether or not we are there to observe it. This perception has shaped the foundations of both Western philosophy and scientific thought for centuries. Yet the quantum world, hidden from our direct view, reveals a startling contradiction to this comfortable assumption. In the realm of quantum mechanics, the observer plays an essential and active role in shaping reality. The very act of observation can alter the outcome of an experiment, challenging the age-old notion of objectivity in classical physics. It was assumed that the properties of an object existed independently of whether or not we measured them. If you were to look at a stone sitting on the ground, it would have properties, size, shape, and color that were independent of your act of observation. The stone was just there, existing with these properties, unaffected by your gaze. However, in quantum physics, particles behave differently. They exist in a superposition of states, simultaneously in multiple states at once, until they are observed. The act of measurement or observation forces the particle to collapse into a specific state, choosing one of its potential possibilities. This is known as the observer effect, and it lies at the heart of many of the most profound mysteries in quantum mechanics. The implications of the observer effect are deeply unsettling. If the act of observation influences the physical state of matter, then it challenges the very nature of reality. Is there a real world out there that exists independent of observation? Or is reality something that only comes into being when we observe it? This question has led to a philosophical paradox known as the measurement problem. It suggests that consciousness itself, our ability to observe, may be the key that unlocks the true nature of reality. The observer effect, therefore, raises more than just scientific questions. It forces us to reconsider the nature of existence itself. Are we living in a universe that is dependent on our consciousness to bring it into focus? Or is the universe inherently independent of us, operating according to its own laws? Regardless of whether we observe it, this shift in perspective is not just theoretical. It has practical consequences. The observer effect has been demonstrated in numerous quantum experiments, such as the famous double-slit experiment, where particles behave differently when they are observed compared to when they are not. The results of these experiments suggest that reality is not as objective or fixed as we once believed. Instead, reality is a malleable process that is influenced by consciousness, as unsettling as it may seem. The quantum world teaches us that the boundaries between the observer and the observed are not as clear-cut as we might like to think. Rather, we are active participants in shaping the world around us, and our consciousness plays a central role. In determining the nature of the reality we experience, the role of consciousness in the quantum experiment. The nature of consciousness is one of the greatest mysteries of both science and philosophy. While we have made significant strides in understanding the brain and its functions, we still have very little idea about the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. What is it that allows us to perceive and interact with the world in the way that we do? Why does consciousness exist at all, and what role does it play in the grand scheme of things? In quantum mechanics, consciousness is not merely an emergent property of the brain, but may be the very force that shapes the fabric of reality. One of the most fascinating implications of the observer effect is that it places consciousness at the center of the quantum world. According to some interpretations of quantum mechanics, the observer is not a passive bystander who merely watches events unfold. Rather, the observer actively participates in the creation of reality. This idea is particularly evident in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which suggests that every possible outcome of a quantum event exists in a parallel universe. In this view, the role of consciousness is to choose which reality becomes manifest, thereby collapsing the wave function and determining the outcome of the experiment. In other words, our conscious awareness may be what ultimately causes the collapse of the quantum wave, selecting a particular reality from the infinite possibilities. This idea has profound implications for our understanding of free will and the nature of reality. If consciousness is truly capable of influencing the outcome of quantum events, then it suggests that we have far more control over our lives and our world than we might have previously thought. The mind is not merely a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its creation. The quantum world reveals that the act of perception itself is a creative force. As we engage with the world, we are not just experiencing it, we are helping to shape it. This perspective aligns with ancient spiritual traditions, which have long taught that consciousness is not a separate, isolated phenomenon, but is deeply interconnected with the universe itself. In this sense, consciousness becomes a bridge between the subjective and the objective, linking our inner experience with the external world. It suggests that the universe is not a cold, indifferent machine operating according to fixed laws, but is instead a dynamic, responsive system that is influenced by our awareness and perception. This view resonates with the idea of a participatory universe, where reality is not simply something out there, but something we are constantly co-creating through our conscious experience. The role of consciousness in quantum mechanics forces us to rethink the very nature of reality itself. Reality is not something we observe, but something we actively participate in shaping. The potential of the observer, co-creating reality. If consciousness is indeed a fundamental part of the quantum process, then it holds tremendous power. It suggests that we are not merely passive participants in the world, but active creators of the reality we experience. This is a radical departure from the traditional view that the universe operates independently of our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions. Instead, the quantum perspective implies that the universe is in some sense a reflection of our consciousness, and that by changing our awareness, we can influence the world around us. This idea is not just theoretical, it has been explored in various spiritual and philosophical traditions throughout history. Many indigenous cultures, for example, have long believed that consciousness is a creative force that shapes the world. They understand that the world is not separate from them, but is interconnected, and that by changing their consciousness, they can influence the course of events. Similarly, modern self-help and mindfulness teachings emphasize the power of intention and focus in shaping one's reality. By shifting our thoughts and beliefs, we can create new possibilities and experiences in our lives. Quantum physics, with its emphasis on the observer effect and the role of consciousness, provides a scientific framework for understanding these ancient teachings. If our consciousness can influence the outcome of quantum events, then it stands to reason that we can also influence the broader fabric of reality. The potential of the observer, then, is not just limited to the quantum realm, but extends to the macroscopic world as well. By cultivating a heightened awareness and a deep understanding of our own consciousness, we may be able to access a greater potential for creation and transformation. The key to unlocking this potential lies in recognizing that we are not separate from the universe, but are deeply interconnected with it in the quantum world. Everything is entangled, and every particle is connected to every other particle through the quantum field. This interconnectedness suggests that we are not isolated individuals, but part of a larger cosmic process. Our thoughts, emotions, and intentions are not isolated phenomena, but are part of the greater dance of existence. By aligning our consciousness with the flow of the universe, we may be able to access untapped potential and become co-creators of the reality. We experience the observer effect in quantum mechanics, forces us to reconsider the role of consciousness in shaping reality. Far from being passive observers, we are active participants in the creation of the universe. The very act of observation influences the state of matter, and this reveals that reality is not as fixed and objective as it seems. Consciousness is not merely a product of the brain, but may be the key that unlocks the hidden potential of the quantum world. By understanding and harnessing the power of our consciousness, we may be able to influence the world around us and co-create a reality that is in alignment with our highest intentions. Chapter 6. The Quantum Field and the Nature of Reality. The quantum field, a web of infinite potential. At the heart of quantum mechanics lies the concept of the quantum field, a vast invisible fabric that permeates all of space and time. Unlike classical physics, where objects are viewed as isolated independent entities with fixed properties, quantum mechanics suggests that everything in the universe is interconnected through this mysterious field. The quantum field is not something we can directly perceive with our senses, yet it is the foundation of all reality. It is the ultimate matrix from which all particles, forces, and even information arise. In a sense, it is the stuff of the universe, the medium through which the illusion of separation, very fabric of existence, is woven. The quantum field is often described as a sea of fluctuating energy, where particles constantly pop in and out of existence, creating a dynamic, ever-changing web of potential. This fluctuating energy is not bound by the constraints of classical physics. It operates according to quantum principles, principles that defy our everyday understanding of the world. These fluctuations represent a vast reservoir of potential, where every possibility exists simultaneously in an undetermined state. The field is not a passive backdrop to the events of the universe. It is the active, dynamic ground of reality itself. It is through this field that all matter and energy manifest in essence. The quantum field is both the source and the substance of everything that exists. But what does this mean for our understanding of reality? If all matter and energy arise from the quantum field, then reality itself must be a product of this field. The objects, forces, and events we observe in our daily lives are not static, separate entities, but are instead manifestations of the underlying quantum field. This means that the world around us is not as fixed or solid as it seems. In fact, reality is more like a constantly fluctuating pattern in the quantum field, a dynamic process that is always in flux. Every moment, the quantum field gives rise to new possibilities, and it is these possibilities that shape the reality we experience. The interconnectedness of the quantum field suggests that the universe is not a collection of isolated objects, but a vast interconnected web of energy and information. Every particle, every wave, every force is linked to every other one through the quantum field. This field does not adhere to the familiar rules of classical physics, where objects move in predictable ways according to fixed laws. Instead, the quantum field operates through principles of probability and uncertainty, where the outcomes of events are not determined until they are observed or measured. In this sense, the quantum field is not a passive background to reality, but an active, dynamic force that is constantly shaping and reshaping the world around us. The nature of reality, from illusion to manifestation, the quantum field's fluctuating energy, and its ability to give rise to matter and energy challenge our traditional understanding of what reality is. In classical physics, we view the world as composed of fixed objects with definitive properties. A rock, for example, exists as a solid object with specific characteristics, size, shape, and weight that do not change unless acted upon by an external force. This view assumes that reality is objective and independent of our perceptions. The rock would exist in the same way whether we were looking at it or not. But in the quantum world, things are not so simple. Matter, it seems, is not as solid and definite as we once thought. Instead, it is a manifestation of the quantum field's fluctuating energy, which can take on a variety of forms depending on how it is observed and measured. In the quantum world, particles are not fixed objects with inherent properties, but are instead probability waves, fluctuations in the quantum field that exist in a state of superposition, meaning they can be in multiple states at once. It is only when we observe or measure these particles that they collapse into a specific state. This process is known as wave function collapse, and it suggests that reality is not something that exists independently of our perception, but is something that emerges when we observe it. In this sense, reality is not a solid, fixed entity, but a process, an unfolding of potentiality that is shaped by our consciousness. This idea has profound implications for our understanding of the nature of reality. If reality is not an objective, fixed entity, but a dynamic process that emerges from the quantum field, then what does this mean for our experience of the world? In a sense, it suggests that reality is an illusion, a shifting, fluctuating pattern in the quantum field that only appears solid because of the way our consciousness perceives it. This view challenges our everyday experience of the world, where we tend to see objects and events as fixed and separate from one another. The quantum perspective, however, suggests that the world is much more fluid and interconnected than we might have imagined. The idea that reality is a process and not a fixed entity also raises questions about the role of the observer in shaping reality in quantum mechanics. The observer effect demonstrates that the act of observation itself influences the outcome of an event. This suggests that our consciousness is not simply a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its creation. By observing or measuring an event, we are helping to bring it into being, selecting one possible outcome from a range of possibilities. This idea echoes the teachings of various spiritual traditions, which suggest that consciousness is not just a product of the brain, but a creative force that shapes the world around us in the quantum world. We are not merely observing reality, we are participating in its manifestation, the quantum field, and the interconnectedness of all things. One of the most profound implications of the quantum field is its suggestion that everything in the universe is interconnected. In classical physics, we tend to think of objects as separate and distinct, with their properties defined by their individual characteristics. A tree is separate from the air around it, the ground beneath it, and the sun that shines on it. But in the quantum world, this separation begins to break down. Everything is connected through the quantum field, a vast network of energy that links every particle and every force in the universe. This interconnectedness is not just a metaphor, it is a fundamental feature of the quantum field. In fact, one of the most intriguing aspects of quantum mechanics is the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, in which two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one particle is instantly correlated with the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon, which Albert Einstein famously referred to as spooky action at a distance, suggests that particles are not isolated from one another, but are deeply interconnected through the quantum field. When one particle is affected, the other is instantaneously affected as well, even if they are separated by vast distances. The concept of entanglement challenges our classical notions of space and time, suggesting that the universe is not a collection of independent, isolated objects, but a vast, interconnected web of energy. The quantum field acts as the medium through which all things are connected, and the interactions between particles are not governed by local forces, but by the fundamental interconnectedness of the field. This interconnectedness suggests that everything in the universe, whether it is a distant star, a blade of grass, or the cells in your body, is part of a larger unified whole. The boundaries between objects, once thought to be rigid and impermeable, begin to dissolve when viewed through the lens of quantum mechanics. In this way, the quantum field offers a new perspective on the nature of reality. It suggests that the universe is not a collection of separate entities, but a unified, interconnected whole. Every particle, every wave, every force is linked to every other particle through the quantum field, creating a web of infinite potential. This interconnectedness has profound implications for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmos. If everything is connected, then we are not isolated beings, but part of the larger fabric of the universe. Our actions, our thoughts, and our consciousness are not separate from the rest of existence, but are deeply intertwined with it. The quantum field offers a new and revolutionary way of understanding the the nature of reality, far from being a passive backdrop to the events of the universe. The quantum field is an active dynamic force that shapes the world around us. Reality is not a fixed objective entity, but a process, a constantly fluctuating pattern in the quantum field that is shaped by our observation and consciousness. This interconnectedness of all things, as revealed by quantum mechanics, challenges our conventional understanding of the world and invites us to reconsider the very nature of existence. In this quantum reality, everything is interconnected, and we as conscious beings play an active role in shaping the universe around us. Chapter 7. The Observer Effect and the Role of Consciousness. The Observer Effect. Consciousness, shaping reality. At the core of quantum mechanics lies a paradox that challenges everything we thought we knew about the world. It is a phenomenon that, while rooted in the abstract world of quantum physics, resonates with our deepest philosophical and spiritual inquiries. This paradox is known as the observer effect, and it suggests that the very act of observation has the power to influence the outcome of a quantum event. To truly grasp the significance of this effect, we must first understand that in the quantum realm, particles do not behave like the solid, independent objects we encounter in our everyday lives. Instead, they exist as probabilities, waves of potential, until they are measured or observed. When this measurement occurs, the wave function collapses, and the particle takes on a specific, definite state. This collapse of the wave function raises a profound question: if reality exists in a state of potentiality, with every outcome existing simultaneously in a wave of probabilities, what role does the observer play in shaping that reality? It seems as though the act of observing a conscious act brings reality into being. The observer effect has been experimentally verified in numerous quantum experiments, such as the double-slit experiment, which demonstrates that light behaves both as a wave and as a particle. When not observed, light travels in a wave-like pattern, but when measured, it behaves like a particle. The implication is clear. The nature of reality is influenced by the presence of consciousness. This observation can no longer be dismissed as a passive objective process. Instead, it is an active force, one that shapes the very fabric of reality. The observer effect suggests that reality is not a static objective entity that exists independently of our perception of it. Rather, it implies that consciousness plays an integral role in the unfolding of events. The universe, it seems, is not a fixed, predetermined set of interactions governed by the laws of physics, but a living, dynamic process that is inextricably linked to our own awareness. As we observe the world around us, we actively participate in shaping it. The potential outcomes that exist within the quantum field are not simply waiting to be discovered. They are shaped by our conscious interaction with them. This insight aligns with ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions that suggest our consciousness is not merely a passive receiver of external stimuli, but an active force capable of influencing the very nature of reality itself. This raises further questions about the nature of the self. If our consciousness can shape reality through observation, then the boundaries of the self become increasingly blurred. Are we simply individual, isolated beings observing the world, or are we interconnected with the fabric of the universe itself? The observer effect invites us to consider a deeper, more profound connection between our consciousness and the universe. It suggests that we are not separate from the world we experience, but deeply intertwined with it. Our perceptions, our thoughts, and our consciousness are not isolated phenomena, but are woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. In this sense, we are not merely passive observers of reality, but co-creators of it, consciousness, as the key to unlocking the quantum realm. While the observer effect reveals the profound connection between consciousness and reality, it also hints at something even more extraordinary, that consciousness itself is the key to unlocking the mysteries of the quantum realm. In order to explore the depths of the quantum field, we must recognize that our understanding of reality is limited by our perception. The mind, as the vessel of our consciousness, plays a pivotal role in shaping how we experience the world around us. It is not simply a passive receiver of sensory input, but an active participant in the creation of our experience. The very fact that consciousness has the power to influence the outcome of quantum events suggests that it is far more than a byproduct of the brain. In traditional materialist views, consciousness is often seen as an emergent property of complex neural activity, something that arises from the physical interactions of neurons and synapses. However, quantum mechanics forces us to question this time, space, and the quantum field assumption, the idea that consciousness can influence the quantum field suggests that it may be something more fundamental, an intrinsic part of the universe itself. Consciousness may not simply arise from the brain, but may be a fundamental aspect of reality, woven into the very fabric of the quantum field. This idea is not new throughout history. Mystics, philosophers, and spiritual traditions have suggested that consciousness is not confined to the brain, but is a universal force that transcends the limitations of space and time. In many ancient teachings, the mind was seen as a reflection of the greater cosmic consciousness, and human consciousness was believed to be a microcosm of the larger universe. Quantum mechanics seems to offer a scientific validation of these ancient ideas. It suggests that consciousness is not simply a product of the physical world, but is a fundamental force that interacts with the quantum field to shape reality. This shift in perspective challenges our current understanding of the nature of consciousness and invites us to reconsider our place in the cosmos. To truly comprehend the full implications of this idea, we must consider how consciousness interacts with the quantum field. When we observe the quantum realm, we are not simply observing an objective reality that exists independently of us. Instead, we are actively participating in the creation of that reality. Our consciousness collapses the wave function and brings forth a specific outcome. In this sense, consciousness is not simply a passive observer of the world, but an active participant in its creation. This idea echoes the ancient concept of mind over matter and suggests that our consciousness has the power to shape the very fabric of the universe. If consciousness can influence the quantum realm, then it stands to reason that it may also be able to influence the macroscopic world we experience in our daily lives. The unified field, a bridge between consciousness and reality. One of the most profound insights of quantum mechanics is the idea that the universe is not composed of separate, isolated objects, but is instead a unified, interconnected whole. This idea of a unified field is not just a theoretical concept, but a fundamental feature of the quantum realm in quantum physics. The concept of the unified field suggests that all particles, forces, and energies in the universe are connected through a single underlying field. The quantum field. This field is the source of all matter and energy, and it is the medium through which everything in the universe is interconnected. The idea of a unified field also has profound implications for our understanding of consciousness. If everything in the universe is interconnected through this field, then it follows that consciousness must also be a part of this larger unity consciousness. In this view, is not an isolated phenomenon confined to the individual mind, but is a part of the larger interconnected fabric of the universe. The mind and the universe are not separate entities, but are woven together through the quantum field, creating a seamless connection between the two. This idea is reflected in many ancient spiritual traditions, which have long taught that consciousness is not confined to the body, but is a universal force that pervades all things in Hinduism. For example, the concept of Brahman, the ultimate all-encompassing reality, suggests that consciousness is the underlying essence of the universe in Buddhist philosophy. The idea of interconnectedness is central, with the understanding that all phenomena are interconnected and interdependent. These ancient teachings align with the findings of modern quantum mechanics, which suggest that the universe is not composed of separate, isolated entities, but is instead a unified whole with consciousness playing an integral role in shaping that unity. By recognizing the universe as a unified field, we begin to see that consciousness is not separate from the world we experience, but is deeply interconnected with it. The separation between subject and object, observer and observed, begins to dissolve. We are not isolated beings looking out at a separate world. We are part of a larger, interconnected whole. This shift in perspective has the potential to transform our understanding of reality and our place within it. If consciousness is a part of the unified field, then it stands to reason that our thoughts, our perceptions, and our actions are not isolated from the world, but are part of the larger web of interconnectedness that binds all things together. The relationship between consciousness and reality is far more profound than we have traditionally understood. The observer effect demonstrates that our consciousness plays an active role in shaping the quantum realm, collapsing probabilities into definite outcomes. Consciousness itself may be a fundamental force of the universe, woven into the very fabric of the quantum field. As we explore the nature of the unified field, we begin to see that the universe is not a collection of separate entities, but a vast interconnected whole with consciousness as the bridge between the individual and the cosmos. This interconnectedness invites us to reconsider our role in the universe and to recognize that we are not isolated beings, but active participants in the creation of reality itself. Chapter 8. Entanglement and the Cosmic Connection. The enigmatic nature of quantum entanglement. At the heart of quantum mechanics lies a mystery that seems almost too strange to believe, one that defies our understanding of space-time and reality itself. This phenomenon is known as quantum entanglement, and it reveals a fundamental interconnectedness in the universe that challenges our deepest assumptions about how the world works. To understand entanglement, we must first consider the nature of quantum particles in the classical view of physics. Objects are distinct and separate. They occupy specific locations in space and time, and they interact with one another according to predictable laws. However, quantum mechanics paints a vastly different picture. In the quantum realm, particles, like photons, electrons, and atoms, can become entangled, meaning their states become deeply linked, so that the state of one particle is instantaneously correlated with the state of another. No matter how far apart they may be, this instant connection between entangled particles occurs faster than the speed of light, seemingly violating the principles of relativity, which state that nothing can travel faster than light. Yet despite this apparent contradiction, entanglement has been experimentally confirmed and is now considered a cornerstone of quantum mechanics. The implications of entanglement are profound, as they suggest that the universe is not composed of isolated, independent entities, but instead, everything is deeply interconnected, forming a vast, intricate web of relationships in an entangled state. The separation between objects dissolves, and particles behave as if they are part of a single unified system. The implications of entanglement for our understanding of reality are vast. It suggests that the universe is not a collection of separate objects, but a dynamic, interconnected whole. The fabric of reality, at its most fundamental level, is woven together by these quantum connections. And what is perhaps most fascinating about entanglement is the way in which it challenges our conventional notions of space and time. If two particles can be instantaneously connected, even across vast distances, then the idea of space as a rigid, static entity begins to lose its meaning. Time, too, becomes fluid in the face of entanglement, as the connection between particles transcends the limits of temporal distance. Entanglement invites us to reconsider the very nature of reality. It implies that the universe is not a collection of isolated objects, but a deeply interconnected web of relationships. These relationships are not limited by space and time, and they challenge our conventional understanding of the boundaries between objects. In this sense, quantum entanglement not only reshapes our understanding of the microscopic world, but also provides a new framework for understanding the cosmos as a whole, one that is not defined by separateness, but by unity, non-locality. The illusion of separation. Entanglement introduces us to a mind-bending concept known as non-locality. This phenomenon, which arises from the deep interconnectedness of quantum particles, suggests that objects do not exist in isolation, but are part of a greater non-local field of influence in a non-local system. The behavior of one particle can influence the behavior of another, even when they are separated by vast distances, without any apparent transmission of energy or information. This challenge to the classical understanding of space and time was famously described by physicist Albert Einstein, who referred to it as spooky action at a distance. Einstein, along with many others in the scientific community, initially resisted the idea of non-locality, as it appeared to contradict the fundamental principles of physics that had governed our understanding of the universe for centuries. However, despite its apparent strangeness, non-locality has been experimentally validated in the famous Bell's theorem experiments. Physicists were able to demonstrate that quantum particles can be entangled in such a way that their states are correlated, even when they are separated by vast distances. This result challenged the classical idea of local realism, the notion that objects exist independently in space and time and are only influenced by their immediate surroundings. Instead, quantum mechanics revealed that objects can be part of a larger non-local system, where information and influence transcend the conventional boundaries of space and time. The concept of non-locality has profound implications for our understanding of the nature of reality. If objects are not isolated, but instead are connected through a non-local field, then the universe can no longer be viewed as a collection of separate, independent entities. Instead, everything is interconnected, and the boundaries between objects are illusory. This idea has far-reaching implications, not only for physics, but also for our understanding of consciousness and the mind. If the boundaries between objects are not fixed, then it stands to reason that the boundaries between individuals may also be fluid. This idea suggests that consciousness, too, may be part of a greater interconnected field, a cosmic network that transcends the limitations of space-time and individual identity. Non-locality challenges us to rethink our perception of reality. It suggests that the universe is not a collection of isolated entities, but a unified, interconnected whole. This interconnectedness is not limited by space and time. It transcends the boundaries of the material world. And just as quantum particles are connected through non-local entanglement, so too may our consciousnesses be linked through a non-local field of awareness. In this view, the separation between individuals is an illusion, and we are all part of a greater unified consciousness that permeates the entire universe. The cosmic web entanglement consciousness and the universe. As we delve deeper into the mystery of quantum entanglement and non-locality, we begin to see a pattern emerge, one that suggests that the universe is not composed of isolated, independent objects, but is instead a vast interconnected web of relationships. This cosmic web extends beyond the quantum realm and encompasses all of reality, linking everything in a dynamic, non-local network. And within this web, consciousness plays a pivotal role. Consciousness, as we have seen, is not confined to the individual mind, but is part of the larger unified field of the cosmos. The interconnectedness of quantum particles reflects a deeper truth about the nature of reality, that everything in the universe is linked through a web of consciousness, energy, and information. The cosmic web is not just a metaphor, it is a fundamental aspect of the universe's structure. It suggests that the fabric of reality is not made up of discrete, independent objects, but is a living, dynamic system in which everything is connected. This interconnectedness is reflected in the quantum entanglement between particles, the non-locality of their interactions, and the role of consciousness in shaping the outcomes of quantum events. The cosmic web is not how thought influences reality, just a passive network, but an active, living system that is constantly evolving and adapting. Just as particles are entangled in the quantum field, so too are we entangled in the larger cosmic web of consciousness and energy. This cosmic web is not bound by space and time, but exists as an eternal, ever-present network of connections that transcend the limitations of the physical world. It is a living, breathing organism, a vast interconnected system in which every part is deeply interwoven with every other part. And just as the observer effect suggests that consciousness plays an active role in shaping the quantum realm, so too does consciousness play a role in shaping the larger cosmic web. Our thoughts, our perceptions, and our actions are not isolated from the universe, but are part of the larger interconnected web that binds all things together. In this view, the separation between individual consciousnesses begins to dissolve. We are not isolated beings separate from the world and each other, but are part of a larger, interconnected whole. This interconnectedness is not just a scientific theory, but a deep spiritual truth that has been recognized by mystics and philosophers throughout history. In many spiritual traditions, the idea of a cosmic web of consciousness is central. It reflects the understanding that all things are interconnected, and that the boundaries between individuals are illusory. The quantum revelations of entanglement, non-locality, and the cosmic web provide a scientific framework for this ancient wisdom, suggesting that the universe is a vast living organism in which we are all participants. The phenomena of quantum entanglement and non-locality reveal a profound truth about the nature of reality, that everything in the universe is interconnected through a vast dynamic web of relationships. This cosmic web transcends the boundaries of space-time and individual identity, linking all things together in a non-local network. Consciousness, too, is part of this interconnected web, playing an active role in shaping the quantum realm and the larger cosmos. As we explore the mysteries of entanglement and non-locality, we begin to realize that the universe is not a collection of isolated objects, but a unified living system, where every part is deeply intertwined with every other part. This realization invites us to reconsider our place in the universe and to recognize that we are not separate beings but integral parts of a larger cosmic whole. Chapter 9. The Observer and the Creation of Reality. The observer effect, consciousness shaping. The quantum realm, at the core of quantum mechanics, lies an enigma that continues to baffle scientists and philosophers alike. The observer effect, this phenomenon often seen as a hallmark of quantum reality, suggests that the act of observation itself has the power to shape and even determine the outcome of quantum events in classical physics. The properties of objects, such as their position or velocity, are determined independently of observation. However, in the quantum world, the situation is radically different. The behavior of quantum particles, such as electrons or photons, is not fixed or predetermined, but instead exists in a state of potentiality, a superposition of multiple possible outcomes. It is only when an observer interacts with the system that this potential collapses into a definite state. The observer effect is perhaps most famously illustrated by the double-slit experiment, a thought experiment that has become one of the most iconic demonstrations of quantum mechanics. In this experiment, particles, such as electrons, are fired at a barrier with two slits. If the particles are not observed, they behave as waves passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern on the other side, as if the particles were somehow in two places at once. However, when the particles are observed, the wave-like behavior collapses, and the particles behave as discrete objects passing through one slit or the other, creating a pattern consistent with classical physics. This experiment illustrates the profound role of the observer in determining the outcome of quantum events, suggesting that consciousness itself plays a central role in shaping the fabric of reality. The implications of the observer effect are far-reaching. If the mere act of observation can influence the behavior of particles, then it stands to reason that consciousness itself may be deeply intertwined with the fabric of reality. This idea challenges the traditional view of the observer as a passive participant in the process of perception. Instead, it suggests that the observer is an active participant in the creation of reality. The observer effect raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, the role of perception in shaping our experience of the world, and the relationship between mind and matter. It suggests that the universe is not an objective, independent reality, but a co-created experience, shaped by the interaction between consciousness and the quantum field. As we begin to explore the implications of the observer effect, we are confronted with the possibility that reality is not something that exists independently of us, but something that is actively shaped by our perceptions, thoughts, and intentions. This raises questions about the power of consciousness to influence not only the quantum realm, but also the larger fabric of reality. Could it be that consciousness is the fundamental force that underlies the entire universe, shaping not only the behavior of quantum particles, but also the unfolding of events in our everyday lives? The observer effect invites us to consider the possibility that the universe is not a machine operating according to fixed laws, but a dynamic, co-created reality in which consciousness plays a pivotal role. The power of intent consciousness as a creative force building. Upon the idea of the observer effect, we are led to the question of whether consciousness has the power to create and influence reality in a more deliberate and intentional way. If our thoughts, perceptions, and intentions can shape the behavior of quantum particles, could they also have an impact on the larger scale of reality? This idea is explored in the concept of the power of intent, which suggests that consciousness is not just a passive observer of the world, but an active creative force, capable of shaping the course of events. The power of intent has been explored in a variety of contexts, from the realms of psychology and neuroscience to the worlds of mysticism and spirituality. In recent years, scientific studies have suggested that our thoughts and intentions can have a measurable impact on the physical world. For example, research in the field of psychoneuroimmunology has shown that our thoughts and emotions can influence the functioning of our immune system, while studies in quantum biology suggest that consciousness may play a role in the behavior of particles within living organisms. These findings suggest that consciousness is not just a byproduct of brain activity, but a powerful force that can shape the world around us. The idea of intent as a creative force is not new in many spiritual traditions. The power of intention has been seen as a key to manifesting one's desires and creating the reality one wishes to experience, from the law of attraction to the practice of visualization. People have long believed that consciousness has the power to influence. What is new, however, is the growing body of scientific evidence that suggests that consciousness may indeed play a more active role in the creation of reality than we once believed. This emerging understanding invites us to reconsider our relationship with the world and our role in shaping the course of events. It challenges us to take responsibility for our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and to recognize the power we have to create the world we desire. In this sense, the power of intent is not just about achieving personal goals or manifesting material wealth. It is about recognizing that our consciousness is intimately connected to the fabric of reality itself, and that our thoughts and intentions can influence the unfolding of events on a cosmic scale. By harnessing the power of intent, we can begin to align our consciousness with the greater flow of the universe, creating a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. This idea challenges us to move beyond the limitations of a passive, reactive worldview and to step into our role as active participants in the creation of reality. The holographic universe reality as a projection of consciousness. As we explore the relationship between consciousness and reality, we are led to a fascinating idea that has been proposed by both physicists and mystics alike: the concept of the holographic universe. This theory suggests that the entire universe, including the world we perceive with our senses, is not a solid objective reality, but rather a projection or illusion created by our consciousness. According to the holographic model, the universe is akin to a hologram, where each part contains the whole and the reality we experience as a mere reflection or projection of a deeper, more fundamental consciousness. The holographic principle was first proposed by physicists Gerard Tufte and Leonard Susskind in the 1990s as a way to resolve certain paradoxes in black hole physics. Their idea was that the information contained within a black hole is not lost, but is encoded on its surface, much like the way a hologram encodes three-dimensional information on a two-dimensional surface. This insight led to the suggestion that the entire universe could function in a similar way, with our three-dimensional reality being a projection of information encoded on a two-dimensional surface. What is known as the holographic principle. This idea has since gained traction in the fields of theoretical physics and cosmology, and has even been proposed as a possible explanation for the nature of space and time. The holographic universe theory has profound implications for our understanding of reality. If the universe is a projection of consciousness, then it follows that consciousness is the fundamental force that underlies the entire cosmos. The material world we experience is not a solid objective reality, but a malleable dynamic projection, shaped by the interaction between consciousness and the underlying quantum field. In this view, the boundaries between subject and object, mind and matter, begin to dissolve. The universe is not a collection of isolated objects, but a unified living system in which consciousness plays a central role in the creation and unfolding of reality. This idea challenges us to rethink our understanding of space-time and the nature of existence itself. It suggests that the universe is not a machine operating according to fixed laws, but a dynamic, evolving projection created by the interaction between consciousness and the quantum field. The boundaries between the physical world and consciousness are not as fixed as we once believed. Instead, they are fluid and interconnected, like the holographic image that emerges from a single beam of light. This understanding invites us to see ourselves not as separate from the universe, but as an integral part of the cosmic whole, co-creators of the reality. We experience the observer effect, the power of intent, and the holographic universe. All point to a profound truth that consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but an active creative force that shapes the fabric of the cosmos. The universe is not a machine operating according to fixed laws, but a dynamic co-created reality in which consciousness plays a central role. This understanding invites us to reconsider our relationship with the world and to recognize the power we have to shape our experience of reality. It challenges us to step into our role as active participants in the creation of the universe, using our thoughts, intentions, and consciousness to co-create the reality we desire. Chapter 10. The interconnectedness of all things. The quantum web, unseen connections, binding everything in the heart of quantum physics, lies a breathtaking revelation. The interconnectedness of all things. This is not just a philosophical or spiritual concept, but one that is deeply rooted in the mathematical fabric of the quantum realm. Quantum mechanics teaches us that at the subatomic level, particles are not isolated entities, but are linked by a vast invisible web of relationships that transcends the limitations of space and time. This phenomenon, often referred to as quantum entanglement, reveals that particles can become instantaneously connected, no matter how far apart They are defying the classical understanding of the speed of light and spatial separation. The most famous demonstration of this entanglement is the Einstein-Podilsky-Rosen EPR paradox, which challenged the prevailing view of the universe. According to classical physics, two particles should not be able to instantaneously influence each other if they are separated by vast distances. However, quantum mechanics suggests otherwise. When two particles become entangled, the state of one particle is instantly correlated with the state of the other. No matter how far apart they are, this phenomenon has been ancient wisdom meets modern physics experimentally verified with entangled particles influencing each other across vast distances, far beyond the limits of conventional communication. The implications of quantum entanglement are profound. It suggests that the universe is not made up of independent, isolated particles, but rather a single interconnected whole. Every particle is part of an intricate web of relationships, where changes in one part of the system can instantaneously affect the entire system. This interconnectedness extends beyond the subatomic world and may offer a glimpse into the deeper unity of all existence in a universe governed by quantum entanglement. Nothing is truly separate. Everything is deeply interconnected. This realization invites us to reconsider our understanding of the cosmos. We are not isolated beings disconnected from the world around us, but part of an intricate and vast web of relationships that binds us to the entire universe. When we reflect on the interconnectedness of all things through the lens of quantum physics, we begin to see the universe in a radically different way. The idea of separation, which much of our thinking begins to dissolve. Instead, we are invited to embrace a more holistic view of reality in which every action, every thought, and every particle is connected to the whole. This interconnectedness calls into question our conventional understanding of individuality and separateness. It challenges us to view ourselves not as isolated beings, but as integral parts of the larger cosmic system. We are all connected in ways that transcend the boundaries of time, space, and matter. The role of consciousness in the quantum web. If the universe is an interconnected web where everything is related to everything else, then the role of consciousness in this web becomes even more intriguing. Traditional scientific views often treat consciousness as something that emerges from the brain, a product of neural activity. However, recent theories in quantum consciousness suggest that consciousness may be a fundamental aspect of the universe, not merely a byproduct of physical processes. In this view, consciousness is not confined to the brain, but is instead a pervasive fundamental quality that permeates all of reality. One of the most compelling theories in this regard is the orchestrated objective reduction theory developed by physicists Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammer. According to this theory, consciousness arises from quantum processes within the microtubules of neurons, the tiny structural components of our brain cells. These quantum processes are believed to be influenced by the quantum field, which permeates all of space, linking consciousness to the very fabric of the universe. In this view, consciousness is not a localized phenomenon, but a universal quality present in all living beings and in all matter. The idea that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe opens up fascinating possibilities. If consciousness is indeed intertwined with the quantum web, then it may have a profound impact on the behavior of the entire cosmos, just as particles in the quantum realm are connected through entanglement. Consciousness may also be linked to the underlying structure of reality, influencing the unfolding of events in ways that are beyond our current understanding. This would imply that our thoughts, intentions, and awareness are not isolated from the world around us, but are part of a much larger interconnected system that extends throughout the universe. Furthermore, if consciousness is a fundamental quality of the universe, then it may play a direct role in the creation and evolution of reality itself. In this sense, consciousness is not a passive observer, but an active participant in the unfolding of the cosmos, just as quantum particles are influenced by observation. The consciousness of each individual may be shaping and co-creating the reality we experience. This view of consciousness challenges the conventional materialist paradigm, which treats consciousness as a byproduct of physical processes and invites us to see consciousness as an integral part of the cosmic dance, actively participating in the creation of the implications of interconnectedness, a unified field of reality. As we delve deeper into the interconnectedness of all things, we begin to confront the profound implications that this has for our understanding of reality. The concept of a unified field of reality in which all things are deeply interconnected challenges many of our assumptions about the nature of the universe. It suggests that the boundaries between the physical world consciousness and the spiritual realm are not as distinct as we once thought. Instead, these realms are part of a continuous whole, interconnected and interdependent. One of the most compelling insights into this unified field of reality comes from the field of quantum field theory, which describes the universe as a sea of quantum fields, each representing a fundamental force or particle. These fields are not isolated, but are in constant interaction, giving rise to the particles and forces that make up the fabric of the universe. In this view, the universe is not a collection of discrete objects, but a unified dynamic system in which everything is interconnected. The idea of a unified field challenges the traditional view of a fragmented mechanistic universe and invites us to see the world as a living, breathing system in which every part is deeply connected to the whole. The implications of a unified field of reality extend far beyond the realm of physics. If everything is interconnected, then the separation between mind and matter, subject and object, is an illusion. Our thoughts, intentions, and actions are not isolated from the world, but are part of the larger interconnected web of reality. This realization has profound implications for our understanding of consciousness and our role in the universe. It suggests that we are not passive observers of the world, but active participants in the creation and unfolding of reality. Our thoughts and intentions are part of the quantum web, influencing the behavior of the cosmos and contributing to the collective experience of the universe. Moreover, the concept of interconnectedness invites us to reconsider our relationship with the world around us. If everything is interconnected, then every action we take, every thought we have, and every decision we make has an impact on the larger system. This realization calls us to take greater responsibility for our actions and to cultivate a deeper sense of mindfulness and awareness. It challenges us to recognize that we are not separate from the world, but an integral part of the larger cosmic system. By embracing the interconnectedness of all things, we can begin to live more consciously, with a greater understanding of our role In shaping the reality we experience, the quantum web of interconnectedness reveals a universe that is far more intricate, dynamic, and unified than we ever imagined. The fundamental particles that make up the fabric of reality are not isolated, independent entities, but are part of a vast interconnected web that spans across the entire cosmos. This interconnectedness extends beyond the quantum realm, influencing every aspect of our lives, from our thoughts and intentions to our relationships with others and the world around us. By embracing the interconnectedness of all things, we can begin to see ourselves not as isolated individuals, but as integral parts of the larger cosmic system. The universe is a living, breathing system in which consciousness plays a central role. In the unfolding of reality, we are active participants in this process, co-creating the world we experience with every thought, intention, and action. Chapter 11. The Nature of Time and Reality. The illusion of time, a quantum perspective. Time is a concept that shapes our perception of reality. In profound ways, we experience the world as if it flows linearly, with events unfolding one after another from the past into the present and into the future. Yet when we dive deeper into the realms of quantum mechanics, we begin to realize that time, as we understand it, may not be the immutable and linear progression we have always believed it to be. Quantum physics introduces us to a reality in which time is far more fluid, malleable, and relative than we could have ever imagined. It challenges the traditional view of time as a constant and reveals a far more complex and nuanced understanding of the fabric of reality at the quantum level. Particles do not exist in fixed locations or moments in time. Instead, they exist in a state of superposition, where they can be in multiple states simultaneously until observed or measured. This means that time in the classical sense becomes less meaningful in the quantum realm. Events can appear to happen in reverse order, occur simultaneously without a clear distinction between past, present, and future. This phenomenon is captured in the concept of quantum entanglement, where particles separated by vast distances can instantaneously affect each other, suggesting that time as we experience it may not be a fundamental feature of the universe at all. The idea that time might be an illusion raises profound questions about the nature of our reality. If time is not a constant, if it is not a linear progression from past to present to future, then how should we understand the unfolding of events in our lives and in the universe? Some physicists, such as Julian Barber, have proposed the idea of a block universe where time is an illusion and the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously as part of a larger timeless reality. In this view, our experience of time is merely a subjective perception, not a fundamental feature of the universe. The events we experience as unfolding in time may actually be part of a larger, unchanging reality where all moments exist at once. This concept is both liberating and unsettling. It suggests that the future is not predetermined, that our perception of the future and the past may be limited by the constraints of our consciousness. Time, in this sense, may be a construct of our minds, a way to organize and make sense of the chaotic world around us. It challenges us to rethink how we approach life events and our sense of self in the larger cosmic context. Perhaps, as quantum theory suggests, time is not a line we walk, but a vast interwoven tapestry that stretches beyond our understanding, waiting for us to unlock its secrets. The non-locality of time, the past, present, and future collide. One of the most intriguing aspects of quantum physics is the concept of non-locality, which refers to the phenomenon where particles separated by vast distances can instantaneously affect each other. This phenomenon defies our conventional understanding of space and time, as it suggests that information can travel faster than the speed of light, and that particles can be connected in ways that transcend the normal constraints of distance. But this concept of non-locality also challenges our understanding of time itself. If particles can be instantaneously connected regardless of distance, does this imply that time itself is non-local? Could the past, present, and future be deeply intertwined, existing simultaneously, in a way that our human minds cannot fully comprehend? The concept of non-locality was famously demonstrated in the experiments of physicists like Aspect, who showed that when two entangled particles are separated, the measurement of one particle state can instantaneously determine the state of the other, even if they are light years apart. This phenomenon has been repeatedly verified in experiments suggesting that the quantum world does not obey the conventional laws of space and time in the non-local universe of quantum mechanics. Time itself might not be bound to the linear flow we experience in our daily lives. The past, present, and future could be mere illusions, with events unfolding in a timeless now that exists beyond our perception. In this view, the events of the past and future are not fixed points along a line, but are part of a larger timeless reality in which all moments exist at once. Our perception of time as a flowing river may be a construct of our consciousness, limiting us to a single narrow slice of existence. However, if time is non-local, then it may be possible to experience the past and future as part of the same unified whole. Some theories in quantum physics suggest that the universe may exist in a superposition of all possible states, where the past, present, and future are not separate, but are part of a single interconnected whole. This suggests that time may be far more fluid than we can imagine, with the boundaries between the past, present, and future collapsing into one seamless reality. The implications of non-locality and the fluidity of time are profound. If the past, present, and future are not fixed, but are part of a unified field of reality, then we may have far more agency over our lives and the world around us than we realize. Our thoughts, actions, and decisions may not inner transformation and conscious evolution be limited to a single moment in time, but could ripple across the vast expanse of reality, influencing events in ways we cannot yet comprehend in a non-local universe. The boundaries between cause and effect, between action and consequence, might be far more porous than we have been led to believe. This opens up the possibility of time travel, not as a theoretical construct, but as a real and tangible phenomenon that could be harnessed by those who understand the deeper principles of quantum reality. Time as a conscious construct, the mind's role in shaping reality. As we explore the nature of time through the lens of quantum physics, we also begin to realize the crucial role that consciousness plays in shaping our experience of time. While time may be a fundamental feature of the quantum realm, our experience of it is deeply influenced by our minds. In this sense, time may be both a physical phenomenon and a conscious construct, shaped by our perception and awareness. This understanding bridges the gap between the objective physical world of quantum mechanics and the subjective mental world of human experience. The concept that time is a conscious construct is supported by a growing body of research in psychology and neuroscience, which suggests that our perception of time is not fixed, but can be influenced by our mental states, emotions, and attentiveness. For example, when we are engaged in an exciting or absorbing activity, time seems to fly by, while during moments of boredom or discomfort time can feel like it slows down. This subjective experience of time is not determined by the passage of seconds or minutes, but is instead a product of our consciousness. In this view, time is not something that exists independently of us, but is instead a reflection of the way our minds process and experience the world. Our perception of time shapes how we interact with the universe, influencing everything from our decisions and actions to our understanding of past and future events. If time is a conscious construct, then we may have the ability to alter our experience of it through our thoughts and awareness by cultivating mindfulness. For example, we can learn to slow down our perception of time, experiencing each moment more fully and deeply. This idea of time as a conscious construct also aligns with many spiritual traditions, which teach that time is an illusion that can be transcended through higher states of awareness. Moreover, if time is a construct of consciousness, then it may be possible to access different timelines or realities through changes in perception. Just as quantum mechanics allows for multiple possible states of a particle, it may be possible for the mind to access alternate timelines or versions of reality by altering its focus or awareness. This aligns with the growing interest in topics like parallel universes and multiverses, which suggest that there are infinite possible realities that exist alongside our own. If consciousness plays a role in shaping the experience of time, then perhaps we can learn to navigate these alternate timelines, accessing new possibilities for growth, healing, and transformation. Time is far more complex than we ever imagined. It is not simply a linear progression from past to present to future, but a fluid dynamic force that is deeply intertwined with the fabric of the universe. Quantum mechanics reveals that time is not a fixed, unchanging phenomenon, but is subject to the whims of the quantum realm, where the past, present, and future can merge into a single unified whole. Consciousness plays a pivotal role in shaping our experience of time, and by expanding our awareness, we may gain the ability to transcend the limitations of time as we know it. The nature of time and reality is far more mysterious and profound than we can grasp. And as we continue to explore the depths of quantum reality, we will likely uncover even more surprising and transformative insights into the true nature of existence. Chapter 12. The role of consciousness in shaping the quantum world. The observer effect. Consciousness as a catalyst for creation. In the world of quantum physics, there exists a fundamental principle that challenges our conventional understanding of reality. The observer effect. It suggests that the mere act of observation can influence the outcome of an event or the behavior of a particle. This concept, first introduced in the famous double-slit experiment, has profound implications for how we understand the relationship between consciousness and the physical world. The experiment, which involves shooting particles through two slits and observing their behavior, demonstrates that particles act differently when observed than when they are not in essence consciousness. Specifically, the act of observation seems to be an integral factor in determining the behavior of quantum particles. At first glance, the idea that observation can affect the behavior of particles seems baffling. After all, we are taught to believe that the universe operates independently of our perception of it, that the world exists as a separate entity from our minds. However, the observer effect challenges this idea, suggesting that consciousness is not merely a passive witness to reality, but an active participant in its creation. The role of consciousness in the quantum world raises the possibility that the universe is not a fixed objective reality, but rather something that is shaped and co-created by the conscious observer. This insight bridges the gap between science and spirituality, suggesting that our minds are not separate from the universe, but intimately connected to it. The observer effect challenges the traditional view of the universe as a collection of separate objects and events. Instead, it hints at a deeper, more interconnected reality, where everything is part of a unified whole. The act of observing is not simply a passive process, but a dynamic and interactive one that plays a crucial role in shaping the quantum world. This suggests that consciousness is not merely a product of the brain, but a fundamental aspect of the universe itself. The observer effect implies that the mind has the power to influence the very fabric of reality, influencing the outcomes of events on a quantum scale. This opens up new possibilities for understanding the nature of free will, intention, and the creative power of consciousness. This principle also raises intriguing questions about the limits of observation. What happens when we are not consciously aware of an event or phenomenon? Does the world continue to unfold according to the laws of physics, or does the absence of conscious observation create a different reality altogether? Some quantum theories suggest that when no conscious observer is present, the universe exists in a state of superposition, where all possible outcomes exist simultaneously. It is only when an observer interacts with the system that the wave function collapses and a single outcome is chosen. This implies that reality is not fixed until it is observed, and that our minds play a crucial role in determining what is real. The holographic principle, consciousness, and the nature of reality. In recent years, a fascinating theory has emerged in the field of theoretical physics known as the holographic principle. This idea suggests that the entire universe, including all of space-time and matter, may be a projection of information encoded on a two-dimensional surface. In essence, it posits that the three-dimensional world we experience is not the fundamental reality, but rather a projection of something deeper, a higher dimensional reality that we cannot directly perceive. The holographic principle, while still speculative, offers a profound insight into the nature of consciousness and the role it plays in shaping our experience of the world. One of the key insights of the holographic principle is the idea that our perception of reality may be an illusion, a construct of the mind. If the universe is a hologram, then the physical world we experience may not be the ultimate reality, but rather a projection of consciousness. This aligns with many ancient spiritual teachings, which suggest that the material world is an illusion, a mere reflection of a deeper, unseen reality. According to the holographic principle, the mind may be more than just a passive observer of reality. It may be the very mechanism through which the universe is brought into being. In this view, consciousness is not something that arises from the brain, but is a fundamental aspect of the universe itself, shaping and defining the reality we experience. The holographic principle also has profound implications for our understanding of time and space. If the universe is a hologram, then time and space may not be as fixed and immutable as we have been led to believe. Just as a hologram can appear three-dimensional, despite being projected onto a two-dimensional surface, the universe may appear to have depth and structure, even though it is ultimately a projection of information. This suggests that our experience of time and space is not a reflection of an objective reality, but a construct of consciousness. In this sense, the boundaries of the physical world may be more flexible and malleable than we realize, subject to the creative power of the mind. The implications of the holographic principle extend beyond the realms of physics and into the domain of consciousness itself. If the universe is a hologram, then consciousness is not something that arises from the brain, but a fundamental force that shapes and defines the nature of reality. This suggests that we are not merely passive observers of the universe, but active participants in its creation. Our thoughts, intentions, and perceptions may be the very forces that shape the fabric of reality, influencing the outcomes of events and the structure of the universe itself. The holographic principle invites us to reconsider our understanding of reality, suggesting that the universe is not a fixed objective reality, but a fluid and dynamic creation, shaped by the consciousness that perceives it. The role of intention shaping reality through conscious will. As we continue to explore the intricate relationship between consciousness and the quantum world, we are led to the idea of intention, the conscious use of will to influence and shape reality, while the observer effect suggests that our mere perception can alter the outcomes of events. Intention takes this idea a step further, suggesting that our thoughts and desires can actively shape the world around us. This concept, which has been explored in various spiritual and philosophical traditions, is now being supported by emerging research in quantum physics and neuroscience, which shows that our mental states can influence the physical world. The power of intention is most clearly seen in practices like meditation, visualization, and intention setting. In these practices, individuals focus their consciousness on a specific goal or outcome, believing that their mental focus and energy can bring about real-world changes. The idea is that consciousness is not merely a passive observer of the world, but an active participant in shaping it. When we focus our attention on a particular outcome, we are not simply observing reality, but actively participating in its creation. This idea is supported by quantum physics, which suggests that the observer effect occurs not only through passive observation, but also through the active engagement of consciousness. Intention also plays a crucial role in the process of manifestation. The idea that we can bring our desires into reality through focused thought and willpower. While this concept has often been associated with mystical or spiritual practices, recent scientific research suggests that there may be a more rational physiological basis for how intention works. Studies have shown that our thoughts and emotions can influence the physical world by affecting the quantum field. This field, which is the fundamental energy that underlies all of reality, is shaped by the patterns of energy and information that we emit through our consciousness. In this sense, intention is not simply a mental exercise, but a powerful force that can shape the fabric of reality. At the quantum level, the relationship between intention and reality also underscores the importance of consciousness in the creation of the world we experience. If reality is a projection of consciousness, then our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions are the very forces that shape the world around us. This suggests that we have the power to shape our own destinies, to create the life we desire through the conscious use of will and intention. By becoming more aware of our thoughts and intentions, we can begin to harness the creative power of consciousness to bring about positive change in our lives and in the world. The relationship between consciousness and the quantum world is far more profound than we can yet comprehend from the observer effect, which suggests that consciousness actively shapes reality, to the holographic principle, which implies that the universe is a projection of consciousness itself. We are beginning to understand that our minds are not separate from the world, but deeply interconnected with it. The role of intention in shaping reality further demonstrates the power of consciousness to influence the fabric of existence. As we continue to explore these ideas, we begin to realize that consciousness is not merely a passive observer of the world, but an active participant in the creation of reality itself. The true nature of the universe may be far more fluid, dynamic, and interconnected than we have ever imagined, and as we awaken to the power of our own consciousness, we may begin to unlock the hidden truths of existence. Chapter 13: The Interconnection, Living in Alignment with the Quantum Truth of Mind, Matter, and Energy, the quantum field, the universal web of interconnectedness in the quantum world. The lines between what we perceive as matter, energy, and consciousness blur, revealing a deeper reality where everything is interconnected. The concept of the quantum field, which serves as the foundation of quantum theory, plays a vital role in understanding the connection between mind, matter, and energy. The quantum field is not simply a collection of individual particles. Rather, it is a vast, invisible web that underlies all of existence. It is the fabric from which all particles arise and return to a unified source of energy that permeates every aspect of the universe. What we perceive as separate individual objects or events are merely localized fluctuations within this field, appearing to our senses as distinct entities. Yet these fluctuations are not isolated, but interconnected, influencing one another in profound and mysterious ways. This interconnectedness is a key feature of the quantum world. In this context, every particle in the universe is in some way connected to every other particle, regardless of the distance between them. This idea, known as non-locality, suggests that the properties of particles can be influenced instantaneously across vast distances. The concept of non-locality challenges our classical understanding of space and time, suggesting that the universe operates in a far more complex and interconnected way than we ever imagined. At the quantum level, the separation between objects and events begins to disappear, revealing a deep unity that transcends our everyday perception of reality. This is where the relationship between mind and matter becomes particularly intriguing. The human mind, as an expression of consciousness, is not separate from the quantum field, but is intimately connected to it. Just as the quantum field serves as the foundation for all matter and energy, consciousness itself may be a manifestation of this deeper reality. If the quantum field is the ultimate source of all physical phenomena, then consciousness, our ability to observe, interpret, and shape reality, may be a direct interaction with this field. The possibility that the mind is not confined, but is a part of the very fabric of the universe, influencing and being influenced by the quantum field. The notion that consciousness is not bound by the constraints of space and time suggests a new understanding of reality, one that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things and the potential for human consciousness to tap into this deeper source of creation. As we explore the quantum field's role in shaping reality, we begin to understand that our perception of separateness is an illusion. In reality, everything is interconnected in a vast web-like structure, with energy and information flowing through it constantly. The observer effect, which suggests that the act of observation can influence the behavior of quantum particles, underscores the idea that consciousness is not just a passive witness to the world, but an active participant in the co-creation of reality. By recognizing this interconnectedness, we begin to see that our thoughts, intentions, and actions ripple out into the fabric of the universe, influencing not only our personal experiences, but the greater collective reality. This understanding offers a glimpse into the hidden truth of existence, that mind, matter, and energy are all part of a unified whole, interconnected in ways that we are only beginning to comprehend. The role of energy in shaping conscious experience. Energy is often described as the driving force behind all physical processes. It is what powers the universe, animates matter, and enables life in the quantum realm. Energy is not simply a force that moves things around. It is the very essence of existence itself. All matter, from the smallest particles to the largest galaxies, is composed of energy. And this energy is constantly in motion, vibrating at different frequencies. In fact, at the most fundamental level, matter itself is not solid and static as we perceive it, but is composed of rapidly moving energy, particles that exist in a state of constant flux. This view of energy as the fundamental substance of the universe aligns with many ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions, which describe the universe as being composed of an underlying energy or force. In these traditions, this energy is often referred to as spirit, prana, or chi, and is seen as the life force that connects all living things. Quantum physics echoes this ancient wisdom by revealing that everything from the smallest particles to the largest cosmic structures is made up of energy, and that this energy is constantly interacting and flowing. This means that consciousness itself is not separate from energy, but is an integral part of the energetic fabric of the universe. The human body is also a dynamic system of energy. Our thoughts, emotions, and physical actions all generate energetic vibrations that interact with the surrounding quantum field. These energetic vibrations influence not only our personal experience, but also the world around us. For example, research has shown that our emotions can affect our physical health by altering the energy patterns in our bodies. Negative emotions, such as stress or fear, can create disharmony in our energy field, leading to physical ailments and a sense of disconnection from our surroundings. On the other hand, positive emotions, such as love, gratitude, and compassion, create harmonious energy patterns that promote healing, connection, and well-being. Energy, in this sense, is not only a physical phenomenon, but also a conscious one. Our thoughts and emotions create energetic vibrations that interact with the quantum field, shaping our reality on both a personal and collective level. This suggests that consciousness is not just a passive observer of the world, but an active force that shapes the energy patterns in our environment. Our ability to direct our energy through focused intention, mindfulness, and awareness is a powerful tool for transforming our experience of reality. By becoming more conscious of the energy we emit, we can begin to align ourselves with the greater energetic flow of the universe, harmonizing our internal world with the external world, and fostering a sense of unity with all that is. The relationship between consciousness and energy is central to understanding the power of intention and manifestation. When we focus our thoughts and emotions on a particular goal or desire, we are directing our energy toward that outcome. This focused intention creates a ripple in the quantum field influencing the energetic patterns that shape our reality. The more we align our energy with our desires, the more we become a conduit for the flow of universal energy, attracting the experiences and opportunities that match our vibrational frequency. In this way, consciousness and energy work together to create the world. We experience consciousness matter and the nature of perception. The way we perceive reality is shaped by the interaction of consciousness and matter. Our senses interpret the physical world around us, allowing us to create a mental map of our environment. However, this perception is not a direct reflection of objective reality. Instead, it is a subjective experience shaped by the filter of our consciousness. What we see, hear, and feel is not an exact replica of the world, but rather an interpretation of it, influenced by our beliefs, emotions, and past experiences. This process of perception is not passive. It is an active construction of reality, influenced by the interplay between the mind, the body, and the external world. At the quantum level, perception becomes even more mysterious. According to quantum theory, particles do not have a definite location or state until they are observed. This raises the question, what role does consciousness play in the collapse of the quantum wave function? Does our observation of the world create the very reality we experience? It seems that the act of perception is not a simple process of observing an objective reality, but rather an active participation in shaping it. Consciousness, in this sense, is not just a passive observer of the world, but an active participant in its creation. The nature of perception is also influenced by the interaction of consciousness and matter. When we perceive an object, our brain processes the information received by our senses, constructing a mental image of that object. However, this image is not an exact representation of the object itself, but a subjective interpretation of it, filtered through our consciousness. Our perception of the world is therefore influenced not only by the physical properties of the objects we observe, but also by the mental and emotional states of the observer. This suggests that consciousness plays a crucial role in shaping our perception of reality, influencing not only how we experience the world, but also how we interact with it. The connection between consciousness, matter, and perception also has profound implications for the nature of reality itself. If our perception of the world is not a direct reflection of objective reality, but a subjective interpretation shaped by consciousness, then reality itself may be more fluid and malleable than we realize. This aligns with the idea that reality is not a fixed objective truth, but a dynamic and co-created experience shaped by the interplay between and matter. By recognizing the power of consciousness to shape perception and reality, we begin to unlock the hidden potential of the mind to transform our experience of the world. The relationship between mind, matter, and energy is far more complex and interconnected than we typically imagine. The quantum field, as the universal web of interconnectedness, shows us that all things are linked at a fundamental level, and that consciousness is not separate from this field, but an integral part of it. Energy, as the essence of existence, flows through all living things, shaping our experience and the reality we perceive, and perception, as the process through which we interpret the world, is not a passive reflection of objective reality, but an active construction shaped by the interaction of consciousness and matter. By understanding these interconnected aspects of reality, we begin to realize that we are not separate from the universe, but deeply intertwined with it. Our consciousness, our energy, and our perception are all part of the greater fabric of existence, and by recognizing our role in this interconnected web, we can begin to shape a new understanding of reality, one that reflects the deep unity of all things. Chapter 14. The Infinite Journey, Embracing the Boundless Potential of Consciousness. The awakening beyond the illusions of the self at the dawn of human civilization. The quest for meaning. Final reflections and closing. Insights, truth, and understanding has been at the heart of our collective journey, from the earliest philosophical reflections to the cutting-edge scientific breakthroughs of today. The search for the true nature of consciousness has been an enduring pursuit. Yet for all our advancements, we still find ourselves standing on the edge of something far greater, a reality that transcends the limits of our perception, our understanding, and even our individual selves. What if the boundaries of the self, the distinctions between you and me, between us and the world, are simply illusions, constructs of the mind that keep us trapped in a limited view of reality? In the deepest realms of consciousness, where the ego fades and the mind quiets, there lies an uncharted space where the self dissolves into the vast infinite expanse of universal awareness. This is the awakening, the moment when we realize that we are not separate from the world around us, but intrinsically connected to it. The false sense of individuality, which has been the cornerstone of our identity, begins to fade away, and we see ourselves as part of a greater whole. This realization is not just a philosophical concept, it is a lived experience that can be accessed through deep meditation, spiritual practices, and profound moments of insight. The awakening to the interconnectedness of all things is a liberating experience. It invites us to let go of our attachment to the small, limited sense of self and embrace a higher, more expansive view of reality. In this state, we come to understand that consciousness is not confined to our individual minds, but is part of a universal consciousness that pervades all of existence. We are not isolated beings, but expressions of a greater cosmic intelligence. The boundaries that separate us from each other, from nature, and from the universe are illusions created by the mind. When we transcend these illusions, we step into a new way of being, one that is aligned with the deeper truths of the universe. This awakening is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of realization. It is a journey of continuous self-discovery and expansion, where each step leads us closer to the understanding that we are infinite beings, capable of experiencing and manifesting realities beyond our. As we continue to awaken to the boundless nature of consciousness, we realize that we are not bound by the limitations of our bodies or minds, but are free to explore the vast realms of possibility that lie before us. This journey is not just about understanding the nature of reality, but about embodying it in our everyday lives, allowing our actions and thoughts to align with the higher truths. We uncover along the way the quantum field of possibility, how consciousness creates reality. One of the most profound revelations in our exploration of consciousness is the realization that consciousness itself is not a passive observer of reality, but an active creator of it. The quantum field, as modern physics reveals, is not a static, fixed reality, but a dynamic field of potential, an ocean of possibility waiting to be shaped by the force of consciousness. This is not just a philosophical idea or a metaphysical notion. It is a scientific truth that is supported by quantum mechanics. The observer effect, one of the cornerstones of quantum theory, demonstrates that the mere act of observation can collapse the quantum field into a specific reality in essence. Consciousness has the power to influence the quantum field, shaping the very fabric of reality itself. This insight is revolutionary, as it suggests that we are not passive victims of the universe, subject to the whims of fate or chance, but active participants in the creation of our reality. The thoughts, emotions, and intentions we hold in our minds have the power to shape the quantum field, influencing the outcomes we experience in our lives when we are conscious of our thoughts and feelings, and when we consciously direct our energy and attention toward our desires. We are actively participating in the manifestation of our reality. This is the process of co-creating with the universe, where our consciousness interacts with the quantum field to bring our intentions into form. The key to unlocking this creative potential lies in our awareness and intention. When we are mindful of our thoughts and focused on our goals, we align ourselves with the flow of the quantum field, directing our energy toward the outcomes we desire. However, this process requires more than just mental effort. It requires a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things and a willingness to trust in the unseen forces that shape our world. By releasing attachment to specific outcomes and trusting in the flow of the universe, we allow our intentions to unfold in harmony with the greater whole, leading us to experiences that align with our highest good. As we come to understand the role of consciousness in shaping reality, we begin to realize that the world around us is not a fixed, rigid structure, but a malleable field of possibility. Our thoughts, intentions, and actions are the tools that shape this reality, and through conscious awareness, we can direct the course of our lives in ways that reflect our deepest desires and highest potential. The more we tap into the quantum field of possibility, the more we recognize the power we hold within us to transform our experiences and create a life that aligns with the deepest truths of who we are. The infinite journey of expansion, embracing the eternal dance of consciousness. As we approach the final stages of our journey into the nature of consciousness, we come to a deeper understanding of the infinite nature of this process. The path of awakening is not a destination, but a continuous journey of expansion, growth, and discovery. As we awaken to the boundless potential of consciousness, we realize that there is no end to the exploration of the self and the universe. Each moment is an opportunity to expand our awareness, to deepen our understanding, and to embrace the ever-evolving dance of consciousness. This infinite journey of expansion is marked by moments of insight and transformation, where we experience profound shifts in our understanding of reality. These moments can come in many forms: through meditation, through the study of science and philosophy, through moments of synchronicity or serendipity. Each experience serves as a stepping stone on the path, bringing us closer to the realization that we are not separate from the universe, but integral parts of its eternal flow. As we continue to grow and evolve, we begin to recognize that the journey itself is the destination. There is no final point where we can claim to have arrived. Rather, the journey of awakening is an ongoing process of becoming, where each step leads us deeper into the mystery of existence. In this way, the infinite journey of consciousness is both a personal and collective experience. As we all contribute to the unfolding of the greater story of the universe, every moment of awareness, every intention, and every action contributes to the collective consciousness, shaping the world in ways both seen and unseen. By embracing this infinite journey, we come to understand that there is no end to the potential for growth, transformation, and discovery, the more we expand our consciousness, the more we realize that the universe is a vast, interconnected web of possibilities, where each individual thread plays a vital role in the unfolding of the greater whole. This realization invites us to live with a sense of wonder, curiosity, and openness, knowing that the journey itself is the most profound expression of who we are and what we are capable of becoming. The hidden truth of consciousness is that it is not confined to the limits of the mind or the body, but extends into the very fabric of reality itself. As we awaken to the vast potential of consciousness, we recognize that we are not separate from the universe, but deeply interconnected with it through the power of awareness, intention, and understanding. We can transcend the limitations of the physical world and tap into the boundless possibilities that lie within and beyond us. The journey of awakening is infinite, and each step we take brings us closer to the realization of our true nature and the endless potential that awaits.